Yo, what is up, guys? It's your boy Bones, Rob, aka Bones, and today we have a big card for the UFC. We've got Alex Pereira versus Israel Adesanya in the main event. Big co-main event: Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal. Pretty stacked card up and down. I mean, you got Raul Rosas Jr., a lot of hype around him, versus Christian Rodriguez, who's from what I've heard, a legit fighter. We've got Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio. And yeah, Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez. That's a stacked main card. So I'm just gonna get straight into my predictions for this main card, starting off with Raul Rosas Jr. versus Christian Rodriguez. So from what I've seen, it looks like Christian Rodriguez is kind of he doesn't have great takedown defense, but he has very good submissions. And I would assume Raul Rosas Jr. is probably going to grapple in this fight because that's what we've seen him do on the Contender Series and in his debut. And he has fantastic jiu-jitsu himself. And against Christian Rodriguez, the submission threat might be there, but if he's able to take him down and, get out of those submissions and get some control time, land some ground and pound and that type of stuff, I could see this. I feel like I can see this going similar to his Contender Series fight. But I wouldn't be surprised if he has some problems in this matchup. But I'm going to go with Raul Rosas Jr. by decision. Next up, we've got Kevin Holland versus Santiago Ponzinibbio, which is a banger of a fight in the welterweight division. We've got Kevin Holland coming off a little bit of beef with Masvidal this fight week in the Fighter Hotel. And he looks pretty locked in, and I think this should be a good fight. But Santiago Ponzinibbio is a veteran, has a lot of good fights in the UFC. Here's the thing with this fight though, is the reach gap, man. Holland has an 8-inch reach advantage, and Santiago Ponzinibbio in his last fight was kind of getting caught on the outside, wasn't really able to close the distance. And if it goes even though he won it in the last round, he didn't really look good throughout the entire fight. And Kevin Holland, fair enough, he lost his last fight because he broke his hand against Wonder Boy. Well, not just because he broke his hand. I mean, that is why they stopped the fight. But he looked decent in the first round up until he broke his hand, and then we didn't really get to see much out of him after that. But I know people are saying Holland can't grapple and all this shit against Chimaev, and people are hating on him. Let me remind you, this guy was 2-0 at welterweight in his first two fights. And then he jumps up way in competition in his next two fights against the number 3 and the number 6 guy in the division. And one of them had challenged for a title. Wonder Boy had challenged for a title. And Khamzat Chimaev is 11-0 before he fought Holland. And he's just wrecking guys. So, it's like you guys can't really hate on Holland just because of those last two losses. And, he's still a legit guy. And I think, Holland has long arms, man. If he uses that reach, that 1-2, that straight right against Santiago Ponzinibbio and he catches him, I think he knocks him out. And I think that's how the fight's going to go. I think Kevin Holland should win by knockout in the second round. Maybe even third round, but it's an interesting fight. I know Santiago can crack, but his chin's not really there as much as it used to be. So yeah, I'm gonna go with Kevin Holland. Next up, banger in the bantamweight division too, between two boxing based MMA guys. Like their style is very boxing heavy. So we've got Rob Font versus Adrian Yanez, number 6 versus number 12. If Yanez wins this fight, man, that is big for him because he'll be moving up in the rankings significantly and he'll have some interesting matchups ahead of him. But first he's got to get through Rob Font, who is very talented. I mean, I know he lost his last 2 against Aldo and Chito Vera, but those guys both crack, and we know Rob Font's chin is kind of dusty right now at this point in his career. But, before that, he was on a solid win streak. I mean, he beat Marlon Moraes. He beat, Cody Garbrandt. Cody Garbrandt's a former champion. So he had some solid wins. Once again, the guy can crack for sure. But, I think that with the chin, here's the thing. Yanez, he's been knocking guys out. He's been, other than Davy Grant, he's been sleeping guys. He slept a ton of guys. He just slept Tony Kelly. He beat up Randy Costa in the second round with those body shots. And that's the thing. Yanez mixes it up very well, but he doesn't have great head movement. And Rob Font's fundamentals, his jab, is very good. But you see, where that weakness for Yanez, that's a weakness for Yanez, right? But we see the weakness in Font's chin. That I think that kind of negates the jab, because if Yanez can crack him, we see what Yanez does when he hurts guys. He starts stalking them, ripping the body, and it's just not a good time. So I think, if Rob Font doesn't get caught, he should win the fight by maybe decision because of his jab and, Yanez's lack of head movement. But, Yanez, man, he can crack. And I think I have a feeling that Yanez is going to end up cracking Rob Font with maybe maybe like a right hand over one of his jabs or something. But it's going to be a good fight. Expect fireworks. I'm taking Yanez by round 2 KO. And then we go to the co-main event of the evening. Jorge Masvidal or Gilbert Burns versus Jorge Masvidal. Big fight. I am so excited for this fight. I've always wanted to see this fight ever since I started watching the UFC because, you see, I started watching back in 2020, and that's when both these guys were kind of on their way up in the division. Well, Masvidal was up in the division already, and Gilbert Burns was making his way up. He beat Damian Maia and Tyron Woodley both in the same year. And that was really impressive, and, people were really impressed with Gilbert. Gilbert's my second favorite UFC fighter. But, I've always wanted to see these two guys fight just because it's such a talent. Like, I feel like these guys' styles match up so well against each other's. The jiu-jitsu of Gilbert Burns and the takedown defense of Jorge Masvidal, but the power of Gilbert Burns and the striking of Masvidal. And, Burns' chin not being as great. But it's just such a good matchup, man. And here's how. So we've got Masvidal has very good boxing, very fast, very precise on the feet. He didn't really see it much against Colby because he was getting pressured backwards, and Masvidal doesn't really react well to backwards or forward pressure by his opponent. When he's the one going forward, he looks very good. But Gilbert Burns, that guy fought Woodley with so much pressure. If you look at that fight, he fought Hamzat with a decent amount of pressure. He puts pressure on these guys early on. He put a bunch of pressure on Usman early on in the fight, and if he can do that against Masvidal, that could make Masvidal respect him, and he could be moving back a lot of the fight and on the back foot, and Gilbert Burns is tagging him, because when Gilbert Burns is the guy going forward, he is a beast. He can crack That guy's power is insane. But we also got to watch the jab from Masvidal because, you've seen Burns get cracked by the jabs by guys like Usman, Chimaev, dropped him with the jabs. And, even though Masvidal doesn't have as long of arms as those guys, he still has a reach advantage over Gilbert Burns. And, if he can crack Burns with a jab, sit him down, could be an interesting thing. If he gets caught up in Burns' guard, though, you get in a submission, that type of thing. So that's why you don't know if Masvidal will fall him to the ground if that scenario happens. But, I just think, Masvidal is getting older, man. And it's like Burns, Burns isn't the youngest guy either. I'll give him that. I mean, he's 36. But think about it, man. I mean, Masvidal has been around. I mean, just look at the guy's record. He has literally over 50 pro fights. That's like 51 pro fights on his record, man. That's a lot. And, Burns has much less fights, so Masvidal has a big experience edge, but he's just getting older, and he's on a 3-fight skid. And, I think, and I'm not even being biased, because I like Masvidal too. I'm a big Masvidal fan. But I think that, Gilbert Burns, if he cracks him or he can, neutralize Masvidal's striking, which I think he should be able to. I don't know, man. I think we're gonna see a round 2 KO by Gilbert Burns. Now we go to the main event of the evening. Big fight. The 4th fight between Israel Adesanya and Alex Pereira. Wow. I didn't even tell you guys this yet, but I actually was in Miami last weekend for the Miami Heat game, and on Sunday, when we were at breakfast getting ready to leave, I see Alex Pereira. We were eating breakfast at the hotel. I look across from me, and I just see him, Alex Pereira, right in front of me. I had to get a picture with the guy. He was so cool. He was such a good guy. He gave us fist bumps. His coaches were asking us where we was from. And, he was pretty nice, man. It was cool to meet him, but, let's get into the fight, though. So we've got Alex Pereira, the champ, versus Izzy, Stylebender Adesanya. Pereira is the champ right now, but let's not forget Izzy was the champ for a while before this fight. He was on a good win streak, but let's think about it. Pereira's beat him 3 times. It's going to be tough for Izzy. Although he was winning the last fight, I give him all the credit for that. He was winning that last fight up until the 5th round, and Pereira just found that shot, and he teed off, and he won. But, you see, I feel like Pereira has been making adjustments. I feel like, it's like he's still so young, and not young like in age, but young in the game of MMA. He had a lot of fights back in kickboxing, beat Adesanya twice. He's double champion in Glory Kickboxing. Very solid striker. That guy has insane power, and he's extremely technical. That left hook will knock guys out, and that's what he caught Izzy with in the last fight. I think Izzy can win this fight. Don't get me wrong. I think Izzy could possibly win this fight by a decision because, he was winning the last fight. And if it goes similar to that, then I don't know. But I think Pereira, if he can, he's going to have more confidence going into this because he's the champ. And if he's pressuring Izzy back and, hurting him, and that type of thing, I could see Izzy getting knocked out again, man. And I think that's what's going to happen. I think Izzy's getting knocked out in the 3rd round. But I'm not just going to be biased and, say Izzy has no chance, because Izzy has a big chance to win this fight. I mean, he was winning that last fight pretty dominantly, too. It was like 3 rounds to 1 for him. And Pereira just came back and, found that shot and just hurt Izzy bad and slept him. But do not sleep on Izzy in this fight. He definitely can come out and look very good and win the fight, but I see Alex knocking him out in the third round. Thank you guys for watching. I plan to make more videos because, I like doing this. And it's a good thing for me, because I'm very passionate about the sport of mixed martial arts. But yeah, I'll see you guys in the next video. Like and subscribe if you enjoyed, and I'll see you in the next video.